welcome to Existential Gamers Live. I am the Existential Gamer himself, and today I am joined by Celly Smiles, a good friend of mine from school. Say hi, say hi, Celeste. Say
Hello, I'm
hello.
Celeste, or Celly, whatever you want to call me, it's chill.
Don't give people that power, okay? So how are you doing? How's life?
Um, I mean, it's okay. I had a rough few months, but I'm getting a lot
Hmm.
better and moving past that, so it's fine.
Is that something you'd like to talk about, or you rather not?
I don't mind if you want. That's
Okay.
fine.
Well, before we get into that, before we get into the deep stuff and all the questions that I don't have, just want to let you guys know we are still playing Sekiro. I just feel like that game requires so much of my concentration that I don't want to play it with like guests. Of course, like especially guests that I've had on for the first time, because I had a guest on previously. I don't know if you remember Cynthia from school as well. I had her
Oh
on
yeah,
the other day, and there were so many moments where we started fighting a boss. Like I started fighting a boss in the game, and we just went quiet because we were just so focused. And I was just like, I don't like this because like I want to have a conversation. Like we had some good conversations, we still did, but I felt so bad because it's just like there were moments where she was just talking, and I felt like I was just so focused on like beating the boss that it's not that I wasn't paying attention, but I feel like I wasn't giving as much what's the word? Not attention, because I was listening, but like I
you
guess I
were
wasn't able to think of like responses, like good enough responses to the things that she was discussing. So
you were just distracted. That's
yeah, but
I
it
get
was
it.
still a
It's
good day.
okay. But also, I mean, you do gotta fight your boss battles, so honestly,
Those are very
I'm sure
important.
it's fine. They are.
So today we're gonna be playing Dead by Daylight, the usual game I usually play on here on this channel. So I don't really care too much if I lose or win on this game. So we're gonna be playing this, y'all. Um, so go ahead, continue. You're gonna say you want to tell us about what was going on. I'm very curious.
Okay, well, I mean, honestly, I don't know if it's TMI for your channel, but I'm just gonna
If you want to
I'll I'll
euphemize anything, I mean,
I'll
feel
I'll
free.
do PG.
Okay.
Um, but so basically, I had a tumor that they found last year,
Oh wow.
around March, I think is when they first found it, and it was causing a lot of issues with my cycle.
Mm,
So um, they had to put me into like a temporary menopause and stuff. And then like eventually that injection wore off at the beginning of this year. And in February, I started having like really bad pains and I could barely walk and I like went to the doctors a lot and my surgeon was I think she was on vacation. I just couldn't get a hold of her and I kept seeing like all these other doctors in between and they just kept like extending my time off of work, and then it turned out that like because of the location that this tumor was in, um it was causing me to have labor pains, and so my body thought I was in labor 24/7 for like 2 weeks.
oh my
Eh,
god.
yeah, it was so bad, it was so painful. I kept going like to and from the hospital, and then eventually one time I went to the hospital just because like, it was hurting so much, and I noticed well, this is, like, the part where I don't know if it's TMI, but, like, I was bleeding,
Mm,
and, I went to the hospital, and they, like, checked me out, and they sent me home. I went back 30 minutes later because I, started to hemorrhage, and what happened is that that tumor I had ruptured, and it caused a hole. And the hole was just like they couldn't close up, and the doctors actually didn't really know what to do. So I went into surgery that night, and then they removed. the mass and they sent it to like pathology and stuff, and it came
Mm.
back like positive for endometriosis, which is,
Endometriosis.
yeah, which is this condition. It's a chronic condition, um, where the lining of the uterus grows outside of the uterus, and it
Oh
can grow
wow.
anywhere in your body.
Endo. Okay, outside.
Yeah, so it like you know how cancer can start in one place and it spreads?
Yeah.
So this is like that. It starts in one place and then it can spread to anywhere that it wants to go, basically. So they patched me up, they sent me home, and this ended up happening 3 more times within the course of like 10 or 12 days. And so I kept just hemorrhaging. I ended up needing a total of I had 2 surgeries, 4 blood transfusions. At some
Jesus.
point, they had sent me home because I had basically a blood clot that was keeping this hole closed, and I was at high risk to start hemorrhaging at any time. So they sent me home knowing that I could bleed out, like just at the drop of a hat, basically. And they put me on bed rest. And I was actually in a wheelchair for a while. So
Jesus.
that was,
I did see that you were in a wheelchair on some of the social media posts.
yeah, but I'm doing a lot better now. That hasn't been an issue. I'm back to work. I was on bed rest for a good like maybe month and a half, and I was in the wheelchair for probably like 3.5 months, because the most walking I was allowed to do is I could only do 10 minutes of walking each day.
10 minutes. I mean, that's so
And
good. I mean, most people don't do 10 minutes walk.
well, I mean, it adds up because like having to get up to go to the bathroom, or like
Yeah.
going like walking to and from the kitchen and stuff like that.
Oh,
So it
so oh, I
wasn't
get what
it,
you mean now. Yeah.
yeah. So it took a lot. My boyfriend was very patient, thankfully.
That's good.
He was really helpful.
Always good to have that support.
Yeah, but I mean, on the downside, see, my boyfriend doesn't really know how to cook.
Oh.
So and normally I do the cooking, but man, I gained so much weight. It was like cheeseburgers and pizza every day for a good 3 months.
Oh yeah, that's
It's okay though.
yeah, but I mean, it's not good for your health either, though.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's fine. Like I'm back at work. I walk like maybe close to 5 or 6 miles a day now. And
Okay.
I still have pain, but I'm doing a lot better. I'm not like completely out of the woods. This is going to be like a lifelong thing that I have.
Mhm.
Um, and it works similar to cancer, to where how they diagnose it, like your stage 1, stage 2,
Yeah.
you know, kind of thing. And right now I'm between stage 3 and stage 4.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So right now it's still going on currently.
Yeah, it's never gonna stop.
Oh, Celeste. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's just the scary part is that like it can grow in any organ, so it can end up in my heart, it could end up in my brain. Um,
Jeez.
but as
I've been.
long as they,
Oh, go ahead.
oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I've been reading a lot into like just cancer in general, and it's so much to it. It's both fascinating but terrifying at the same time. You know, like it's just it's just a weird concept in general. Like just something, there's the idea of it, like why it happens, and like what causes it. And so I just, oh, I agree with him. Just and just knowing that it could happen at any moment, right? Like any of us could have this happen to us, and
Oh
we
yeah,
have to
absolutely.
be vigilant about that. And it's not like we can tell people, like, especially you or anybody else, that's like, oh, it's because of something you did, whatever. It's like, no, you could do everything perfectly and still have it happen. It's literally just your cell deciding to just want to live forever. And it ends up
Yeah.
taking the rest of it with it, and it's unfortunate. It's like hijacking your body. And because I've had people tell me, they're just like, oh, how do I prevent cancer? It's like, well, you can't 100% prevent it. Yeah, there's ways to like lower your chances, but there's always gonna be that percentage there, you know. Like, of course, I'm not saying, you know, like go do whatever, you know, destroy your body. I just want people to know, like, you know, you can't 100% get rid of that ability. Like, you can't, you know, get rid of you getting cancer and stuff like that. Even wild animals, you know, like, they're living naturally, and there are a lot of animals that get cancer still.
Oh yeah, it can happen to
Mm-hmm.
anything. But this isn't actually cancer. It just works like cancer in
It's
the way
similar
that
to
like yeah, like I even they were so puzzled with my case that they didn't know what to do. They literally had a team of surgeons trying to figure out like a game plan on how to help me. They ended up bringing a woman who had retired, but she specialized in cancer in this area, and they treated me like a cancer patient in order to get it under control.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but it's technically not cancer. It kind of works like cancer in the way that it spreads and how they use stages to diagnose it.
Yeah, sorry, my brain was just like, yeah, it's but I
No,
realized
no,
you
no,
did
it's
say
okay.
that. My apologies.
It's okay, it's okay. I actually am at a higher risk of getting it, of it turning into cancer eventually, but
Oh.
right now that's not like too much of a concern.
Sorry, I know you had a lot more to talk about. I just had a quick question. I feel, does this, like, yours sounds like a rare case, like, it doesn't, you know, honestly, I want to, like, say something, like, what's the word, what am I trying to say here? Even though this is, like, you know, not good, of course, it is interesting that you're kind of bringing something new to the world, right? You're teaching people something. And I feel like, in a sense, that's something positive to get out of this, in a way. And I mean, that's the way I'm seeing it. I think that's pretty cool that, you know, this is something new that we can learn from, you know, if they're having issue with that and everything. Of course, that is also scary, but, you know, like, I don't know, because, you know, who knows how many people have gone through this and they treat it as something else, right? It's good that they're seeing this as something different, because then we can learn something new now.
Oh
So,
yeah, absolutely. Not too many people know about endometriosis, and it only affects women.
mhm.
But it affects them so differently. Sometimes, like, you can go through life and show very minimal symptoms of it and not know that you have it. And or it can be like traumatizingly scary.
Mhm.
And you could have things that like happened to me, which is an extremely rare case. My doctors said that they had never seen a case like mine before, where I was growing my tumor. They had never seen it grown in that area before, because it was to the point that it not only affected like the area that it was in, but it even affected my blood vessels, and they were like eroded, and that's part of the reason that I kept bleeding out, was because they were all damaged.
She's eroded.
And
Oof.
yeah, it's just like it's not something that very many people know about, but definitely, you know, after treating me, I do feel that those doctors are all a lot more prepared, a lot more um knowledgeable in
Mhm.
case they ever come across something that's like mine before.
That
I mean, in the
you
future.
you saying that right now actually reminds me of something I just read recently, just today actually, in a book called Finite and Infinite Games, by James Coser. He talks about how, like, there's a difference between being, um, what's the word? God, I'm trying to remember the
Prepared?
exact. Yeah, like, there's a difference between prepared for surprises. I forgot how he says it. Like, the way he put it made it really sound interesting. Pretty much like there's a difference between being trained for something and being educated. Because when you're trained for something, you're trained for a specific surprise, right? Like, oh, if this happens, you know, you do this, like, you react to this way, right?
Yeah,
While
yeah,
when
okay.
you're educated, you don't know, it could be something completely new, a new situation but you will still react to it in a certain way because you're educated that you can make guesses, educated guesses that can lead to really good solutions and stuff like that. So he of course made it sound a lot better, but I'm just like remember something similar to that, and I
Oh,
just
that's really good. I like that. That's good.
but I wanted to ask about the endometriosis. Did I say that right? Endometriosis.
Yeah.
Um, how often does this happen to people? Like how rare is it?
I think the statistic is that it affects 1 in 10 women.
1 in 10.
And most people are going to be like a stage 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
Being a stage 3 or a stage 4 is really rare. It has, in order to be, and the diagnosis for it is like really tricky, because you need pathology to determine, and sorry, there's another word for it. Confirm. There you go. You need pathology to confirm it, but in order to do that, you have to undergo surgery so they can get a biopsy
Oh wow.
of it. And in a lot of cases, like you can be suspected for it, but they're not going to put you through the surgery when it's not necessary. And which is part
Hmm.
of the issue that I had is last year when they found the mass or the tumor, whatever you want to call it, um, my doctor didn't think it was highly necessary that for me to get surgery. She said I needed it, but because of COVID, she decided to postpone it and put it off until, she just couldn't put it off anymore. And I actually ended up getting a different doctor. But it's like that for a lot of people. It's not worth going and doing like all this invasive stuff, putting your body through it just to confirm that you have something when you can most of the time control it with hormones
Hmm.
if it's not too severe. Like if you're in a stage 1 or a stage 2, what they'll normally do is they just put you on like high dosage kind of birth controls, or they find like a hormonal plan that works for you and it helps keep it under control. But then in
Hmm.
some cases, like mine, um, it's just like too strong and let's say like it's determined, to where it's gonna spread no matter like what you do. So you have to
Hmm.
take more extreme measures.
Oh, I okay. I have another question. Sorry, I'm actually fascinated by this because well, like one, I'm like dude, so I don't know a lot about this, but
No,
two,
no, it's okay.
two, I think this is very important because I want to understand this kind of stuff because in the future, if I ever have a partner and they're going through something like this, I want
Or
to
a daughter, you never know. Yeah.
yeah, I want to understand, you know, and be there for them, and really, do whatever I can for them, but not just that. I just think it's important, knowing about, both sexes in general. Um, but one of the questions I had was, is endometriosis anything similar to? I've heard this before, and again, I know you were talking about TMI stuff and everything, but I, gotta give a warning to my own chat. Ooh, my thing is going all weird. Um, is this what I've heard this before, and all you ladies in the chat or anything, let me know. I'm ignorant to this, but what does it mean when they said they shed the uteral lining? Like, does that happen to everyone, or is that only like specific to that? Because I don't hear much about it, but I have heard about that. What is that
No,
exactly?
it usually happens to everyone. If
Uh-huh.
not everybody feels it the same way, because for some women it's like super painful. For me, I feel it a lot when it does happen. But it happens like when you're on your period, and it's totally normal.
Okay, it's a
It's
normal thing.
just that your uterus is like prepared to receive an egg, a fertilized egg, and for like the egg to attach. But when the egg doesn't attach, it sheds the lining so it could start a new lining and be prepared for the next egg. Does that
Ah,
make sense?
yeah. See, and I don't know. I feel like why is that something that we just kind of like gloss over? Like I feel like both like men and women should both know about each other's like things so that you're not just like, oh yeah, they're doing that thing. You could take it more seriously. I said it is.
No, then that's like a I'm glad you're asking. A lot of guys I didn't know if I should bring it up because I'm like, "Oh, what if he's the kind of guy that like is gonna get grossed out
No,
or
I
like doesn't want to hear it?"
yeah, like there are times where like girls, tell me like, "Oh, sorry, I'm sorry, Michael. I'm talking about this stuff," and I'm just like, I don't care. Like this is happening to you. Like, you know, I don't have anything going on with me, but if I was, I wouldn't feel uncomfortable talking about it. But thank God, I'm fine. Everything with me is going all right. Um, but I'm totally
No,
not
that's
grossed out
good.
by that kind of stuff. I honestly I find that all interesting. I love the human body, like I understanding it. I actually plan to write a book in the future about it's gonna be called How to Pilot Your Body, and I want to go over like all types of things. Not only just the functioning of our organs and stuff like that, but also how to maintain it and take care of it. And I do want to do a section on the female side and get a lot of what's the word, information from specifically from females, of course, like famous people who have a lot of information on that, doctors and things like that, female doctors and all that, so I can have a huge chapter for that, because I'm not going to know any of that stuff, and the only way I can do that is seeking information from people who have to go through that every day. So like this is very fascinating to me. I really want to know as much as I can about this. um,
Oh yeah, no, thank you for being so interested. Actually, I'm part of this support group on Facebook, and somebody recently shared a story where, because I mean, it's not even just people like in your day-to-day life that aren't, so aware, but there's even a lot of doctors
mm,
that don't
yep.
know too much about the condition. It's like very early in discovery. I want to say I don't know if it was discovered in the 80s or the 90s, but it hasn't been around that long. And there's not too much research and stuff. Like they still don't know what causes it. A lot of people think that, or a lot of women that are in that group say that like there's certain diets that can help it. So
Mm.
like you have to follow an anti-inflammatory diet, which
Okay.
oh my gosh,
Yeah,
is
like
so
no
hard.
tomatoes, no bread, no all this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it should help relieve
I
the
read a lot about
symptoms
that.
because one of the things is that it causes a lot of swelling.
Hmm.
So they do this thing, or they talk a lot about this thing called like endobelly, is what they call it. But it basically, because you have this condition, it makes you swell up so much that you can look pregnant. And that's
Jesus.
actually happened to me several times. I'm like, it's not just because I'm chubby. It's it's not just because of all the in and out and Domino's. It's also part of this other thing,
Yeah.
which is really interesting. But like I'm trying so many different things right now. Like I'm trying to this tea, that's supposed to help the swelling go down, and I'm doing my best to stick to that diet, but dang, they gotta take away all the good stuff. You can't have bread.
Hey, it's only good because you grew up with it. It's all something I've learned a lot, because I went through a huge diet. I lost around 80 pounds.
Oh wow, good for
I
you.
gained another 20 back, but not. It was all muscle actually, so it works out fine.
Oh, even better.
Yeah, I think I actually lost more fat. Like people, every time people see me, they're like, "You're getting skinnier." I was like, "I actually gained like 20 pounds." So I don't know what that coming from.
Dang.
But so like I went a hardcore diet. I changed a lot of the things I ate, and one of the biggest things, and I read a lot of books on this, and they talk about how the one of the two biggest factors that cause your cravings for specific foods is either you're lacking in certain nutrients, right? And so you can get that from other types of foods, or
Yeah.
it's the bacteria in your stomach. They've actually started doing a lot of studies and like getting a lot of information on this, that we actually find out that there's specific bacteria in our stomach that cause us to crave for certain things. If you eat a lot of sugar, the bacteria, your microbiome in your stomach starts changing and wanting, it starts craving the sugar. So a lot of the food that you crave is not necessarily because people say, oh, it's because that's my favorite food, that's what I like to eat. It's like, no, that's what everything in your stomach likes to eat, and it's telling you, it sends chemicals to your brain telling you, hey, get that food, I like that food, I can survive with that food. And so you think,
What?
yeah, so you think, you're like, oh no, that's me saying I like that food. It's like, no, it's the stuff in your stomach sending chemical signals, neurotransmitters. So these neurotransmitters are created by all the bacteria in your stomach. So they actually control your emotions, your feelings, depending on the type of food you had. I've noticed ever since I started eating healthier and more whole foods and stuff like that, my mood changed so much. I'm happier. I feel better. I'm not prone to be getting angry anymore. And of course, what also helps is having a lot of information on what's the word, strategies to like wrangle those emotions and everything. Just like, okay, I'm feeling this way, why am I feeling this way, using logic and stuff like that. But the diet helps so much, because if I eat a really crappy thing, like something super sugary and stuff like that, I notice I lose myself really quickly. I'll get angry really quick or something like that. And they actually find out that that's actually what causes hangriness. Like people get hangry when they're like hungry and they get all angry. It's because your blood sugar gets really low, and the bacteria in your stomach starts sending a lot of what's the word,
your stomach gets mad at you, so you get
yeah,
mad.
yeah. So it sends a lot of neurotransmitters. I'm forgetting the specific one. I think it's serotonin. It's one of them that stresses you out and causes like pretty much you to get like really frustrated, and it's like pretty much pushing you. Hey, you need to go get some sugar because we're low on sugar right now. And you know what homeostasis is?
Yeah.
So homeostasis is a huge factor in all this too as well. It comes to a lot of things, even with like dopamine, right? The more you enjoy something, the higher the homeostasis bar on dopamine starts going up and up and up until like you need so much now, and then it just starts raising the bar even higher. So you have to kind of like lower that dopamine bar, otherwise it's gonna go off on this slippery slope of just never ending. You're never pleased. You're always gonna be like, I need more, I need more, I need more, until you can't fulfill it anymore. And that's what causes a lot of suicides, because people don't know how to balance out their dopamine.
Did you ever watch Drake and Josh?
Yeah, long time ago though.
There's this episode, and I don't know why this episode has stuck with me for so many years. I only saw it the one time. But there's an episode where they tell Drake that he can't go like X amount of time without eating anything that has sugar in it or something. And so he stops eating sugar to prove them wrong, and it affects his body so bad. Like he's tired and cranky, and he starts breaking out so much because he's not eating any of the sugar. And what you're saying right now is making me think about that.
Yeah,
because it is. That's how
your body because the bacteria is not there for you. None of those bacteria are not there for you. They're there for themselves. They're there to multiply themselves, and so they'll manipulate you into getting what they want. And so you have to be wary of that. They're not serving you. And so when you're feeling like crap after eating so much sugar and stuff like that, like it's literally that bacteria attacking you and just being like, hey, give us what we want. Like, we're gonna make you feel like crap until you do. And you kind of have to just like, it sucks, but you have to kind of get over that hump and just continue with your diet and everything. And eventually those bacteria will die out because they need that shitty food to survive. And eventually it'll be replaced with bacteria that actually, works off the good stuff that you're eating. And you'll start craving that. You'll be like, oh man, I need the good stuff. Whenever you see like a burger or something like that, you're gonna be like, ugh, because the bacteria in your body is gonna be like, boy, we're not gonna survive if you eat that. Like, we're gonna die. So it's just having patience and knowing that you have to build that good environment in your stomach that'll eventually start helping you. Because it is it's really what it is your own little ecosystem in your stomach that you have to take care of. It makes me think of Osmosis Jones, like you have your little city and everything. You have to like take care of them, otherwise,
Oh my gosh! Speaking of Osmosis Jones, have you seen that show on Netflix, the anime called Cells at Work?
No, I have not. I want to check it on Netflix. Okay, I gotta check that out.
Oh my gosh, you totally need to check it out. It's so cool. So basically, it's like Osmosis Jones, except it's like a day-to-day thing. It shows like all these characters, like it has little characters for your platelets and the white blood cells and the red blood cells, and it works it out as if it's like almost like a distribution center. So like the red blood cells will have to take packages to the lungs, and they'll have to make like different deliveries to like different organs and stuff. And sometimes like a bacteria or a virus will come and invade the body, and it shows like how the cells and everything react to it. It's really interesting. If you like this kind of stuff, I think it'd totally be up your alley, and you should definitely give it a watch.
Oh, definitely. That sounds. You said Cells at Work, right?
Yeah, Cells at Work. It's really cool.
I'll check it out.
The little platelets, they're so cute.
All right.
But I even watched a doctor or a surgeon reacting to watching this show, and he was in love with it. He was like, "Oh my gosh, like that's so clever to do it this way," and that's right. That's correct. You know, like you
Mhm.
actually learn. You could learn a lot from watching that show.
Man, okay. I need to do that immediately after this today.
um, but I was going to mention how I had said that I was part of that support group.
Mhm.
So somebody had recently shared a story that, I mean, this is how little doctors know about it, that a woman had actually overdosed because on accident because she was trying to stop the pain from this condition, and the doctors had didn't know what to prescribe her, so she took a mixture of medications, and it actually ended up causing her life.
Oh God.
So just to give you an idea of like how in the dark, you know,
Yeah.
some people can be about it.
You know, somebody Salty Kit Kat Bar was saying and even though this comment is kind of a little bit of a generalization, no offense, Salty Kit Kat Bar, but no, you are right in a sense. She says that everyone should know about everything, and you know, of course, that's, you know, almost impossible, but people should be avid learners. They should always be learning about stuff. Because I think what a problem nowadays is that people rely too heavily on experts instead of everyone gaining a little information and stuff on that and being able to work with the experts just in case, because the experts are not going to know everything. You guys got to understand that. They're human just like you. Doctors are not going to be 100% perfect. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to do their best, you know. You know, same thing with other professionals, mechanics, dentists, and everything. You know, we think just because we give them our money that they're going to do a 100% perfect job. But, like, think of all the jobs you've done. Did you always do a 100% perfect job at it? No. You can't expect the same thing from other people.
No.
So I just wanted to let that know, because I've heard a lot of people, and I understand where the emotion comes from. It does suck, especially if you lose a loved one to a doctor, you know, like, you know, messing up or something like that. It is a terrible feeling. But you have to know that, you know, you can't 100% trust people, anybody. And it's not to be negative. It's just that you need to give yourself a little bit of responsibility. You can't just shove it onto other people all the time. You have to
Oh
do it. You
yeah.
have to do the work. You have to go, you know. It wasn't until last year, and I've said this many times on my stream, that like I started reading books and everything. And my God, it has changed my life. And so I encourage everyone to just like go, like, find a subject you're really into. Start with that, because that's how it works, right? You know, you find a subject you're really into and just start getting a lot of info into it, and
Learning about it.
yeah, and you'll pick up meta skills that'll get you into wanting to learn about other things, and it'll just start spreading out like this, like, spider web, just to other stuff. Because that's how we learn. That's how the human brain learns. It picks up on things that we have familiarity with. You know, that's how I learned piano. Or sorry, not piano, guitar. Was that I was already learning piano, and I started seeing patterns and similarities in guitar, and I was like, oh, they're very similar to each other, and it helped me learn it much faster. And you could do that with everything. That's how your brain works. It's like this, like I said, this interlinked, like, spider web in a sense. And you just have to know. And then the cool thing is, the more you learn, the more you start picking up things. It's like this runaway flywheel, right? Like, first it starts off slow, and then once you start adding more and more and more and more to it, it just starts going off crazy. Like, you just start, like, going downhill, like, fast speed. But anyways, sorry. Continue what you were saying. I just wanted
No,
to
it's okay.
go off
It's
what you were
okay.
saying.
No, you're right. That's how people start learning other languages.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they find something that's like similar to Spanish and they learn that, and then they find something that's similar to the other thing. You know, it's how you end up knowing like 4 or 5.
Yeah. That's actually something I quite recently picked up on as well, is with English. That's how you can memorize a lot of stuff, because there's a lot of, like, Latin is so heavily used in English, along with Greek. And you can also see those.
Greek? Yeah.
Yeah, you can also see all that in Spanish as well. So, like, let's look at a word like parachute, right?
Okay.
The word, the first half of parachute, para, is used in Spanish. What does para mean in Spanish?
Four.
For, okay. And then shoot is actually a word in French. They actually use it for the word fall. So if you think of
Or fall.
for fall, yeah, for falling, that's what it's used for. The same thing with
How do you say?
what's up?
How do you say parachute in Spanish?
I have no idea. I still need to learn Spanish.
Let me ask my boyfriend. How do you say? No, you don't know how. Never mind. My resources failed me.
Hey, it doesn't mean you have to stop there. That's what we have the internet for. But it's the same thing with parasol, right? You use a parasol. What is that for? What is sol for? What does sol mean in Spanish? Sol.
Well, by yourself. Yeah.
No. Sol, like the
Oh,
sun.
light. Yeah. Light.
So it's for the sun. Parasol is for the sun. And if you look at umbrella, umbra is a Latin word for shadow. So it's for the shade.
Really?
You know, it was actually originally made for the shade. It eventually turned from is to create shade, pretty much. It's a little shade. That's what the Ella part stands for. It stands for little, and the umbra is a shadow, like shade. So it's little shade. It's creating a little shade for you for the sun.
How
So
cute.
umbrella and parasol, parasol were both words they used for that thing. Who am I missing here? So just like things like that, like you create stories with words and it helps you memorize things so much easier. Your brain loves that kind of stuff. I'm just gonna let this person leave. And just like I was thinking of another word that's in Spanish. That's also what does con mean in Spanish?
With.
With. Can you think of a word that has con in it in English?
Continue.
Continue.
So
with
with.
I'm not sure what the continue part is. I'm still learning
I don't
a lot
know.
of stuff. But but you know what
Connect?
continue means, right? Like connect. That's a good one. It's putting two things together. They're with each other.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Even combine. It's just that they turn the N into an M. It means the con part or com is with, and then the by part is two, with two. You're combining two things together.
Interesting.
So it's just what you were saying with language, like it's so true. Like once you start picking up on one language, like especially the Romance languages like French, Spanish, Portuguese, trying to think of all those other European countries, but around that area, Italian, a lot of those
So
share.
that's a big one.
Yeah, a lot of those share a lot of the same words and stuff. And so sorry, I know I went on a long tangent, but I just thought like you just perked my brain, and my brain was just like, yeah, those things, get all that out.
No, honestly, you could keep going if you know more. That's.
Oh,
that was fun.
I like always using those two examples because it just shows you how much you can go along with that. But if anybody here wants to get to expand their vocabulary, that's what I recommend, is focusing on morphology of words. So break them into pieces. Our brain, when we're babies, we don't learn, when we hear like daddy or mommy, right? When we're first growing up, when we associate the concept with our parents, when we hear dad and mom, or mama and dada, whatever, papa, whatever you call them, like we don't go, okay, so that's a D, that's an A, that's a D, and that's an A. No, we just go, dada, that person.
They're just sounds.
Yeah, they're just sounds. And so, like, we associate the entire word with that sound. We're not picking up on the letters. We're not picking up on the, the concept of, like, how is that word formed and everything. We're just like, okay, that sound means this thing. And so you got to remember that your brain still learns like that no matter what. And so when you break these things into pieces, anytime you see the word para, you're gonna be like, four. That means four. I associate that with four. And so you start picking up words. It makes it so much easier because it's like you're putting puzzles together instead of being like, oh, how do I spell this, each individual letter? No, you start picking up with these concepts, these pieces, and you start memorizing way more words because it's like almost if you had like little aliens, right? And each alien's made up of 3 different pieces. And instead of having to memorize each different alien with like their specific name, you know that they're named after whatever pieces they have inside them. And so the more pieces you learn about, the easier you can start, picking up on aliens that are you know, put together in a specific way, because you'd be like, oh, I know that head, I know those legs, so that means this thing is this kind of alien, you know what I mean? But put that into words, you know, that's the way I see it, kind of thing. You can withhold so much more information because you're chunking them into specific pieces, and that's what they call it, chunking. It's the way our brain, it's just a way easier way for our brain to process information. We chunk them into specific concepts. But
well, it's like look at dogs. There's so many different kinds of dogs, but
yeah,
you know, like from a young age, you know what a dog is, no matter like if it's a different color,
yeah,
or if it's a little bit bigger.
Because you in your brain, you're chunking your concept of dogs as, well, they have, you know, they wag their tails, they got fur, and they bark, you know, all those things are just like, okay, dog, you know. But you can also separate those things, you know. Barking can be, you know, from something else. You could bark, you can go rah, I'd be like, oh, that person's barking for some reason, I don't know why. But they're still a human though, because I can see the silhouette and the things they have. But it's still like something you can do, and I think that's really interesting that our brain does that. Like when you go into someone's brain, there's no specific part for dog, there's no specific part for human and dad and mom and everything. It's just that your brain, and this is actually how computers work too, your brain just finds a bunch of information that fires off into a specific concept and puts that together and goes like, oh, okay, yeah, that's that thing, and it does it like immediately. It's so cool. Like, it always blows my mind how like our brain puts things together. It makes so many predictions, and it runs all these simulations, and it's just like, whoa. I could talk about it all day, but but continue with what you're talking about with your support group and stuff like that. I do have a question, but if you have anything else to talk about.
No, I can't really think of anything else to say about it. I mean, they're helpful.
That's good. I'm glad you have that.
Thanks.
But my question is, I hear a lot of times that I have, you know, I wish I had more friends that were girls, because I like hearing that from that perspective. But from a lot of the friends I do have that are girls, I notice a lot of them have issues with, you know, that, you know, their stuff down there. That doesn't seem to be a normal thing, but I just hear it so often. Like, has that been recently a normal thing that's been going on, like where a lot of women have been having a lot of issues with like their uterus and things like that? Or am I just, you know, talking to the wrong people? No, I'm just kidding.
I'm trying to think. Because I know the thing that I have is like a genetic thing. Mm-hmm. My mom, she was never diagnosed with it. She didn't even know about it until like I had it. Oh, wow. But women in my family do have like a lot more trouble with that than like most women that I've met. So like my mom had a hysterectomy at a pretty young age. She was like in her early 30s when she had it. And even my sister, my older sister, she had something similar done, except I can't remember what it's called. So a hysterectomy is when they remove the uterus. Mm-hmm. And there's a different one where they remove the ovaries. And my sister had the ovaries taken out. Wow. So, but she had that done when she was like in her late 20s, I think. But I mean, I do talk to, you know, women here and there who have like a similar problem. I've even gone as far as like helping them and giving them advice on like how to deal with it, because this actually all started, if I think back to like when I first started having trouble with my cycle. Mm-hmm. I was in middle school. You know, it was always really painful, or it was like really heavy. I had to have like vaginal ultrasounds at a young age, so because you're not actually allowed to do them until you're over 21. But I think I had my first one when I was like 18 or 19, and I had been on hormones for like 6 years before this happened.
And what do the hormones do? What are they for?
It's just birth control. Oh, okay. It's just to like, cause my cycle would just like would be really heavy and irregular. So sometimes it could last for like 2 weeks. Sometimes it would just be like the 1 week, or but for sure it would be like really heavy and painful every time. So they put me on birth control to control it more. And so I would only get it like once a month, the typical 5 to 7 days, and I wouldn't be bleeding as much as what I would sorry, as
Mm.
much with as I would be if I didn't have it. Sorry, I don't know why that was so hard for me to say.
That's not good.
Um, but yeah, I honestly don't know anything else to say about that. I'm sorry.
No, no, it's so good. I have a friend who's going through something like that. I wish
Well,
they
I
would,
mean,
I wish they would,
if you want, I mean, feel free to tell her to contact me and talk to me about it. I've gone through quite a bit, and maybe I could help her out.
hmm.
Give her
I
some
mean,
advice on like how to manage.
yeah. I don't know. It's tough because like, you care about your friends and stuff like that, and sometimes you feel like they don't take care. They don't what's the word? Take it as serious.
Mhm.
And it's like, what can you say? Because if you say something, it's just like you don't know what they're going through exactly because you're not in their shoes. And so
Yeah.
in a sense, I feel like it doesn't matter how much info I can get and learn about it. At the end of the day, it's not up to me. It's up to the other person.
Yeah.
And that, it's sad, but at the same time, it's just, I'm learning more and more that, like, you know what? It is what it is. But yeah, it's just I know a few people that are going through that kind of stuff, and I have a lot of friends who have a lot of conditions, and I care about them, so I look into it, right? I'm not gonna just be like, well, that's weird, like, why do you have that, and then just like be ignorant and just not do anything about it, right? Like, I have friends who have ADHD, I have friends who have autism and things like that, and I am so curious about it. I read through books and everything on it. I'm still learning more about it. There's so much to learn about it, but I can't say anything because, again, at the end of the day, I'm not the one that has it. So, but the thing that frustrates me is none of them want to do research on it at all. Like, they know they have it, but instead of researching it and learning more about themselves, they just choose to use it kind of. And I apologize if you guys hear me say this, but honestly, when I hear you guys talk about it, I just feel like you guys use it as an excuse rather than being like, okay, this is this is the thing I have. Let me look more into it and understand it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. How do you feel about like people who do that kind of thing, like where they talk about something that they have a condition or anything, but they do no work to like understand it or seek to understand it?
Oh no, I know like a good portion. Like people, even like girls have come up to me and asked and told me about like the issues that they have with, their cycles and stuff, and I'll give
Mm-hmm.
them advice and they're like, "Yeah, okay." And they don't really take it, like you're
The
just
assholes. Yeah.
like you just wanted to come talk to me about your thing. Like, okay, like that's fine like
Yeah.
if you want to vent, or whatever, but
It's like, just say that then. But I get it, like, because I've actually read a book on that too, where they talk about empathy and how there's actually three parts to empathy, right? You have your mental empathy, which is like acknowledging the fact that somebody's going through something. You are aware of it. Then there's the emotional empathy, is where like you connect with their feelings and stuff like that. Like people, you're like like when you told me about what you're going through, like there was a part of me that hurt. I was just like, oh Jesus Christ, like that would be. And I'm freaking down, like explaining the shit out of this, so it doesn't even sound like I care anymore, but I do care.
that's okay. I believe you. Don't worry about it.
But that's the emotional side to it, and then the third portion is, and this one is affected by whatever you have more of at the end of the day. So if you have more emotional,
Or
then
staples.
if you have more emotional, then this third part of empathy will be affected by that, and if you have more mental, of course, it'd be as well. But compassion. So the third part of empathy would be compassion, which is your ability to want to do something. So when people start giving solutions to somebody, you know what I mean? They're just like, oh, well, this is what you should do and everything like that when they hear a problem. It's usually because they have way too much mental empathy. Like, they're aware of everything, and they're going into their brain and finding, like, solutions to it and everything. A lot of guys do this, of course. I'm sure a lot of people are aware of this. Guys tend to do this a lot. But everyone does it, of course. But if you have a more just, like, you know, mental focus, like, you're just like, okay, I see what they're going through. Here are some solutions that I thought of. Here's some information that I've thought of. Let me tell them that. I'm sure that'll be helpful. And then they're just like, you asshole, I just wanted to talk, I just wanted to vent to you and everything. It's like, I should have been more emotional. So, like,
Well, no, it's like they come to me and they approach it as if like they want help. They're like, "Hey, like I have a similar thing going on with me. Like
mhm.
what are you doing or whatever?" And I tell them and then they don't want to do the things that like I'm saying. Like it's not the solutions that they want to hear, you know?
Yeah, they want to be told what they, you know,
Or like
I
there's
still feel like that goes into the emotional territory because they want to hear something that makes them feel better, like something that they can feel good about doing, not something that goes against something they don't like doing. So that's still in an emotional territory. Like, they want emotional comfort rather than to hear the truth. Like, you know, like somebody who's like, you know, really overweight and they're just like, I really want to lose weight. It's like, well, you got to stop eating this shitty food. It's like, that's not what I want to hear. It's just like,
wow,
well, I'm
it's like
sorry,
that.
but that's the truth. It's like, I can't sugarcoat that for you. So yeah, no, I
There's
still see that as an emotional, like, they want the emotional side more than the mental side.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's happened more often than it has like the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was this girl who, because I had put a post about it on Facebook when all of this was happening, because I needed answers. You know, I needed help, and my doctors couldn't find any solutions. And I was like, well, maybe somebody on the internet, you know, has gone through the same thing. So I posted it on Facebook. I made it public, and I put it in that support group. You know, and a friend had recommended that I talk to this girl. And so was messaging her and she's like trying to make like what it didn't matter like what I told her about what was going on with me because like in this situation I was the one seeking help, you know, trying to get advice, trying to find answers. And she anytime that I told her something that was going on with me, she would counteract it and to turning it into like however what she was going through was worse.
Oh,
And I'm like
jockeying for
sitting
position.
I'm like literally sitting in a hospital bed connected up to like all this machinery and you're trying to tell me that because you're in pain and you can't, you know, get up and walk that you're worse off than I am. And I'm like I've had so many blood transfusions like they can't get this under control. Like you can't approach me as if like, "Oh yeah, I'll help you out," and then just try to flip it, you know,
Yeah.
and say, I don't know. It was
Yeah.
honestly, I was really annoyed.
There's a lot. Yeah, a lot of people do that. It is. I read a book called The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene. A huge ass book. Is like 600 pages, I think. I want to read it again though. There's so much good
You
stuff
read
in
a
there.
lot, don't you?
Read just recently. Like I said, I barely started like last year, like during COVID. Like I was like,
Oh,
well, I'm
okay.
gonna be home all day. Might as well get into reading. Jesus Christ, I'm shit at this character. Oh. I was gonna say though, but in that book, the second law is literally the law of narcissism, where they pretty much he mentions that we're all like narcissists to a certain extent. Some more than others, of course. But at the end of the day, we always do everything for ourselves. You know, even the nice things we do for other people, we do it because we want to feel good about ourselves, right?
Yeah, like they say there's no selfless good deed.
Yeah, of course. But you know, once you accept that, you know, you don't feel as bad anymore. You're just kind of like, well, I'm gonna just help myself out. You know, as long as I don't fuck somebody else over, like in a harmful way. Um, And it's just that you ever since I read that in that book, it's just like I noticed it everywhere, like all the things people do, all the things people say. I'm just like, God, like people really are narcissistic. You just see it all the time. It's like, but it helps so much because I'm no longer, you know how like some people, they see people do like some crazy stuff, whatever, and they're just like, why do people do this? And in my head, I'm just like, I know why. Like, they're just, like, full of themselves. Like everyone's a little full of themselves. I'm not even paying attention. Where are these people at? But yeah, I just find that funny. It's just, you just see it all the time. People always jockeying for conversations. They want to talk about themselves. At the end of the day, too, it's just like there's like I feel like there's no objective saying of like who's suffering more than another person, because at the end of the day, everyone has their own individual issues that they have to deal with.
Yeah, and like what's traumatizing to you might not be traumatizing to them, you know, or what's not a big issue to you, to them might be like the end of the world, you know?
Yep, it's all a matter of perspective. And, you know, the same thing with suffering. Sorry, I'm trying to kill this guy.
No, it's good.
I was explaining this on one of my other previous episodes, that suffering is the same thing, you know, like, suffering is just like, how much you focus on the pain and the issue that you're going through. That's suffering, you know? So when someone says, I'm suffering, it's like, well, you're the one causing that because you're thinking way too much about it, you know? There are people out there that can lose their leg and they'll, like, meditate out the shit out of it and be like, you know what? This is what it is. I lost my leg. I'm gonna have to change my lifestyle, you know? That's not easy to do. I'm not saying that just, like, snap of the finger, like, hey, stop bitching about your lost leg, you know? But what I'm trying to say is just that it is possible, and you have to just kind of understand that perspective that at the end of the day, you know, things are gonna happen. You know, your body isn't finite. I mean, isn't infinite. You know, you're not immortal. You know, I'm just gonna let this game end. I freaking give up.
You give up?
No, it's because this character's. I've never played this character, and it's like kind of hard to like talk, and then also trying to learn how to play this character.
Oh, okay. So you're just gonna change characters.
Yeah, I'm just gonna change characters. I'm just gonna let these people win the game. Yeah. And that's actually in the Robert Greene's book too. The last chapter, the last part of the book, he says it's the law of death denial. And he talks about how like a lot of people don't realize that they're mortal until something drastic happens, you know. And you know, of course, you know, at the back of your head, you're like, yeah, I know I can die. You know, I know that I can die. You know, I'm sure nobody out there. Okay, I'm just generalizing, but. I'm sure there's, you know, a lot of people, most people know that they can die, right? But do you live your life that you know you can die?
No.
Is the saying, you know, is what he's trying to say.
Well, I mean, look at everything that's happening with COVID. People know that they can get COVID and they still go out. No one cares. I am one of those people.
I know, I did it too, honestly. Like, I tend to forget that. You know, there's the Latin phrase, memento mori, remember death. And then amor fati, which is love fate. And as much as I repeat these things in my head, like, I know that I tend to forget, you know? What the hell? I swear. This is how... I want to do a video on, like, how, you know, human nature and everything in this game that I'm playing right now, because you get to see, like, really, people do the most stupidest things, and you're just like, wow, the narcissism is real. You know how I said I was gonna let them win and everything? Like, I'm just standing there, and they all just start bullying me, and I'm just like, what the hell? Like,
what are you playing again?
Oh, Dead by Daylight.
Dead by Daylight.
Yeah, so I just murdered the person right in front of me. But I just find that funny. But yeah, it just, you know, people tend to forget that they can die too. Or that they can die at any moment, right? We could die tomorrow, we can die today. But we don't live our lives like that. We really don't. And it's unfortunate that we don't do more about that. Like, I don't know, I mean, I guess in a sense that's why I did the stream and everything too, because I was like, okay, I like playing video games, but I also want to have really interesting conversations and stuff like that. That's a huge part of what I love getting out of life. Because that's another thing too. I couldn't sit here and tell you like, hey, you could die tomorrow. Like, what are you doing with your life? if you if you know, like, if you generally enjoy just sitting on your ass doing nothing, you know, I'd argue that you're just being complacent. But if you literally are like, this is the meaning of my life, this is what I'm meant to do, like, I'll be like, hey, more power to you, you're doing it. You know,
Like, good for you. You're living your best life. That's
yeah.
as good as it gets for you. There's
But
nothing you want more than to just, what did you say, be complicit?
well, no, that's the thing though. Like, there's a difference between being complacent and actually living. You know, you're like putting meaning to your life. Because, like, I've had friends where I told them like, hey, like, don't you care about, like, you know, taking care of your body and everything? Don't you want to feel good and all that? And they're just like, nah, I'm happy, I'm doing great and everything. And then, like, the next day I'll talk to them and they're like, just I feel like there's, like, just much more to life that I should be doing. So I'm just like, oh my god. like they say they're happy, but, like, you know, at the end of the day they're thinking about it. Like, they want to do more. There's more they want to do with their lives. But that's what complacency is where you start trying to convince yourself that you're okay, that you're fine with what you're doing, but deep down you really want to do more. You know there's more for you to do, because at the end of the day there really is no meaning to life. You know, we're just, I mean, that's what I believe. I'm not going to push that on anybody, but, like, I feel like at the end of the day there's really nothing to it. You know, you create your own meaning of your life, you create your own meaning of success and all that, what you want to do. But don't lie to yourself. You know what I mean? If you truly feel like you're not doing enough with your life, then stop sitting on your ass doing nothing. Go out there and do it. Otherwise, you're gonna, you know, sit there and regret it.
So what is success to you?
For me?
Yeah.
I would say success is progressive, you know, doing, you're progressively realizing what you want to do with your life. So, like, and you're doing something about it, you know? So, like, me creating the stream and actually recording every day, you know, to me that's success. I'm successful in doing that because I accomplished what I wanted to do with this. I wanted to sit here and talk with people about life and about what they want to talk about and stuff like that. So in that case, I am successful in this activity, this thing that I set out to do. And this goes towards my goal of wanting to be a teacher, because I get to talk about information and recite, you know, info so I can memorize it better, so I can, you know, be more helpful to my students in the future who have questions about these kind of things. I can be like, hey, here's a book you can read about that has a lot of information on this kind of stuff. I think this will really help out. I actually wouldn't mind being a counselor in the future too. So, like, all these things are little steps towards those goals that I have, and so I am currently being successful because I'm working towards that. You know what I mean? So to me, that's what being successful is that you're progressively realizing the actions that you need to accomplish to get to your final goal, you know. And from then on, you just create a new goal, you know, and then you continue being successful. I know some people, they think, you know, having a lot of money is successful. You know, there was a quote, I don't remember specifically, I'm always terrible at memorizing quotes, but I always paraphrase them. But pretty much what he says is, like, money isn't, you know, success. It is just a byproduct of success. It'll come from success, no matter, you know, no matter what you're doing, you know. So, like, as long as you're just being successful towards your goals and what you're working towards, you know, most likely you're gonna get money from that. Now, of course, if you're not getting money from it, then I guess whatever your goals are and whatever success that you're working towards doesn't necessarily need money then. So, you know, that shouldn't be something you should be worrying about then. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if you're working towards a hobby and that's like your what you consider being successful and everything, I'm sure somehow you can turn that into a financial, you know, thing. So, like, it just depends on how you're going about it and all that. So yeah, that's my definition of success anyways. I don't want to go too and keep going.
Okay, no, that's a really good way to look at it. And honestly, like, it is the really small goals that you set for yourself.
Yeah.
You know,
Little dominoes.
you know, just your day-to-day goals that will help you get a lot further, I believe, anyways.
No, yeah, I totally agree. That was actually a realization I had a few months ago, was that we have to look at ourselves like time travelers, right? Everything we've done in the future has already happened. Everything we've done in the past has already happened. in a sense. You know, I'm looking at this in a really abstract way, of course. You know, I'm not actually saying it has happened. Yes, we are time travelers, everybody. No,
Time is an illusion.
what I'm trying to say is that we have the ability to look into the future. We have the ability to look into the past. We can think about both of those things. We need to use them in a very well-adaptive way, not in a maladaptive way. Depression is a maladaptive way of using our ability to look into the past. Anxiety is a maladaptive way of using our ability to look into the future. We need to figure out how to turn those into a more, progressive way, a more well-adaptive way. So what I say is that we're time travelers is that we need to set up the dominoes ahead of time and help out our future self by doing the work now and help, so that our future self is like, hey, past me did a really good job of setting this up, and now I have the tools to be a better, to set up the next future me with some good stuff too, you know what I mean? And we have to look at it that. Otherwise, if we keep thinking about the now, like we keep just going like, well, I'm just gonna sit home and eat potato chips and watch TV all day. The future you is gonna be like, what the fuck? Like this is what I get? Like you just decided to just live a life of hedonism and just like say fuck me, in a sense. Like, all right then, and then you continue the chain, right? So your present self goes like, fuck future me, I'm just gonna live my life right now. And then the future you is just like, all right, fuck future me, I'm just gonna live my life right now. And then it becomes this domino chain of just you screwing yourself over in the future. And then you just start resenting
you're right.
You start resenting your past self. You're just like, well, past me was a dick and didn't take care of himself, so now I have to deal with it,
Present you isn't so charming either, so.
And so, like, eventually the present self has to snap out of it and be like, all right, everybody, I'm gonna get it together so we can stop, living this cycle of, resentment and hating each other and stuff like that. Because at the end of the day, like after, like, they say around, like, after 7 years, we have a completely new body. Like, all of our cells have cycled out, and they're completely new cells and everything. So, like, you really gotta set it up for your new cells in the future. It's just like people said I look younger now, like, ever since I lost weight and everything and started taking care of my body. Like, which is funny because I have the gray hair, so I've always looked old, but...
Honestly, I've always really liked your gray hair. I always thought you looked great.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem.
What I'm trying to say with that, though, is that, that I'm narcissistic and I care about... No, I'm just kidding. Is that, like, for me, like, I took care of myself, and so that my future self can have a better body. The new cells that are coming in have a better, health to it. It's like almost like a society, right? Like a city. You set up for the future children, the future people. They're gonna have better lives and everything, and you kind of have to see your body as that as well. Like, you don't want to be the old grumpy man who just want money and everything, right? Like, I just want my stuff now. And then you set up the future, the future you with a shitty body as well, and they're all gonna become grumpy, old men too. You know what I mean? Like, you want to set them with a good future so they become like, a better environment, a better group of people. I'm like butchering this analogy, but I hope you know what I'm saying.
No, I understand what you mean. I get it. It's okay.
Yeah, and so, like, we need to look at ourselves like that. So, like, eventually, hopefully, maybe, all of us can eventually do that as a community, right? As a society, as the human race. That's like the biggest plan is or hopefully eventually we can all do that for each other. But that's gonna be a long road from now.
We'll get there eventually.
Because that's life. That's what all people say.
It's interesting that you brought up anxiety and depression, because there's actually like I feel like a lot of mental illnesses that you can really turn into something positive. Like when people have OCD, obsessive compulsion disorder, they say that that could be turned into something really positive by like getting yourself engaged and turning your OCD maybe not from, because I mean the thing is that you want to be a perfectionist, right? But you could definitely turn that into like if you're studying to be a doctor or whatever, then you're going to be really successful as a doctor because you can channel all of that energy into learning about your craft or
Mm-hmm.
like any craft that you're doing, whether you're into blowing glass or fixing a refrigerator. I don't know.
No, yeah, of
Um,
course. No. Were you gonna say something else, or sorry, I didn't wanna.
oh no, I was just because you had mentioned like how with anxiety you're looking into the future and with depression you're looking into the past
Mm-hmm. Oh, I mean,
and how
oh, go ahead. Sorry, finish that thought. I just want to make a disclaimer, but after.
no, it's okay, what's up?
No, I was gonna say I just want to let people know I'm not saying that it's that easy, right? Like it's just like, hey, stop being depressed, stop being anxious. No, there's much more to that. I'm just kind of like simplifying it. Like that's relatively what you're doing when that's happening. But of course, I know there's more to it. There's a lot of chemicals you have to deal with. There's a lot of environmental factors you have to deal with. There's a lot to it, but you have to take the steps. And the first step is acknowledging, of course, that you have the ability to change it. You just have to go through a lot of other ways of accomplishing that. But I just want to make that disclaimer that I am not saying that you guys can easily do it at the snap of a finger. Jesus
Oh no,
Christ.
it takes a lot of work, a lot of determination.
Mm.
Like there's therapy and there's like all sorts of different kinds of therapy. Occupational can be really helpful with depression, or they even you can get a degree in art therapy. Did you know that?
Oh, really? I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's quite recent, huh?
Probably. I was working for a while as a behavioral therapist.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so I was working with kids who had special needs, primarily who were autistic or had Down syndrome.
Oh.
But like one of my supervisors, I had told her about like how we went to the art institute and I had shown her some of my work, and she really wanted me to stay in the field.
Uh-huh.
And so she was trying to get me to just go to school for art therapy. She's like, "Well, you can do this, and it'll be kind of be similar, and you can have like be involved in like both ways, because like as a behavioral therapist, you just try to help them learn how to do day-to-day things. My thing with autism, and I will say it, you know, time and time again, I truly believe you just need the patience. It's not that like they can't do anything. They just learn in a different way.
Yeah.
And
No, yeah.
you need
Definitely.
you need to be able to adapt yourself to teach them. They don't have to adapt themselves to learn from you.
Yeah.
You know, you just anybody is going to learn in a different way. Some people prefer to take notes and write everything down. Some people they need to practice it in order
I
to
Oh, go ahead,
what's up?
sorry.
It's okay.
I was just gonna say that I agree with that, that we do need to adapt to people that have autism and everything. I just want to say that if they are mentally aware that, because the different stages of autism, different levels of autism and everything, but they need to understand too that not everyone's gonna do that, and to be aware of that. You know
Oh,
what I mean? And
no,
I
no,
think
no,
that's
no.
very important as well.
No, I'm
Um,
speaking about this
oh,
strictly as
for
in
educators and stuff.
like for learning purposes.
Yeah.
Like if I'm teaching them their ABCs, like singing ABCs to them over and over again and showing them the letters isn't always going to help. You need to turn it into like different games, or
Okay, I get you.
that's
Sorry,
that's
I
what I
mis.
mean. Like you have to adapt to them in the way that they are going to learn.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I totally misunderstood that.
No, 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 sorry. I'm glad that you brought it up so I could clarify. I'm not saying that like we should always adapt to, you know, people's disabilities
Mm-hmm.
or anything like that. And I'm also not saying that we shouldn't adapt to them. There is a fine line where, you know, you can be aware. You know that you shouldn't pick your nose, okay? You're not supposed to do it.
Hey, you can't
But
tell
that
me what to
doesn't mean
do.
we have to be tolerant of, well, they're autistic, so they can pick their nose.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally get you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I strictly mean like learning. So like one of the things, and like how I told you, we teach them like day-to-day things. So I would teach my clients how to wash their hands, and it's not normally something that requires much effort, as far as when you're teaching someone to wash their hands, normally you can just tell a kid like, hey, all you gotta do, maybe you show them a couple of times. We do it like this. You put your hand under the water, you put some soap, you're good. You wash up, whatever, you're fine. But in this case, you have to adapt to the child because when they're autistic, sometimes it's a texture thing that they don't like. They could be
And sensory issue.
yeah, it's a sensory thing, or maybe because somebody is always doing it for them, you know, they don't actually worry about it. So we would actually teach it in like 15 different steps, and you didn't even realize that you took 15 different steps to wash your hands, you know, and you can either start from the very bottom or you can start from the very top, where what we would do is, let's see, the first thing you should do when you're going to wash your hands is you're going to turn the water on. Okay, so you tell them to turn the water on, and then you have to wet your hands a little bit. So you wet your hands a little bit, and then you reach for the soap. So reaching for the soap it's like its own step. It's not like you just put soap on your hand. No, it's actually like you have to reach for it, and then you have to pump it, and then you need to rub for X amount of seconds, right? And I mean, I could go on. This list is actually a lot longer than you would think, but it's all those tiny little steps that they sometimes need help learning that you don't actually think about whenever you're doing it. You know, you don't I never did. I never realized how many steps I took, you know, whenever I would go to wash my hands, you know, down to grabbing the towel at the end and actually putting it back.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I mean, I was gonna say, no! Oh, try to blind me. You saying that right now just kind of reminded me of when I read about how I read a whole book called The Learning Brain, and they talked about how we learn, right? And that's what I was talking about, the kid thing, like how kids learn and stuff. And how like we never really think about how, you know, especially when we get in our car, right? We back out of the driveway. How many different things we have to do in order to do that, to accomplish it.
Yeah, and that's basically like what I was doing with as being a behavioral therapist. I was teaching them everything, you know, trying to take every single little step into consideration and, you know, help them understand how to do it and why they need to do it. It was really honestly one of the most fulfilling jobs I've ever had. It was a lot of fun. A lot of it involved like basically I would go to their house and I felt like I just got to play with this kid for a few hours, you know? It was cool. You teach them different things like colors, and you work in like different incentives, like their favorite toys or their favorite snacks and stuff like that. It was fun. I really liked it. It does require a lot of patience.
Just like right now, I gotta beat these fools. Damn it. Yeah, I have a lot to talk about that actually, but let me just really quick.
Okay.
Get these guys.
And it's not even like the practices that I would do at work, I would totally do those on any neurotypical child as well. I think it fully applies, you know, there's nothing wrong with teaching any child step by step how to do things, you know, take the little things into consideration, because I mean at young ages they're I mean it's what they need. They need you to focus a little bit more and really explain things to them.
Damn.
Earlier you were talking about, you know, like mama and dada and like how those sounds make a difference, and I think the way that we speak to kids has a big impact on their ability to learn in the future. So like my nieces, And my sister didn't speak to them like they were babies or anything. She always just spoke to them like they were people, and I feel like that really helped their development a lot because they were all speaking at a young age in full sentences and they could fully like comprehend what you were talking about to them and like even ask you questions if they were confused.
Mm. Yeah, that's why I wanna like if I could, I would love to be a neuroscientist because it's like one of my most like fascinating fields I like. I just learn. I mean, the brain. I mean, it's such a big thing, right? Like we use it every day, and like there's just so much to it, There's a lot of people in my life that do have autism. Not my like intermediate family or anything, but like a lot of friends um, that I spend a lot of time with, and they, have a lot of family members that have autism, and those people mean a lot to me. And those people that do have autism as well, they're great, amazing people, and I just want to understand how it works so much. Like, how does the brain learn in that sense? Because that's what I feel like is missing. It's not that they can't learn, it's that we just don't fully understand how they learn. We just know how we learn right now. And I would
Yeah.
love, I would love to learn how they learn, because as a person who wants to be a teacher, I want to know how to teach everyone, you know? Not just the people that
Yeah,
are
and
easy
that's
to teach,
yeah, and that's like exactly what I meant earlier is that like it's not that they learn in a different way. It's just that
Mhm.
that's it. They learn in a different way. We need to adapt to the way that they learn in order to teach them how to do different things,
Mhm.
how to manage different situations because to them it's not so not that I'm saying it's not so like crystal clear. It's not just point and point, there's more to it.
Yeah.
A lot of people who are autistic, it comes with a lot of curiosity. They want to know how things work. I had a
I
student.
mean, oh, go ahead. Go ahead. You had to
Oh
say.
no, go ahead.
I'm gonna go on a long rant, or not rant, but tangent, because I have a lot of information about memory and stuff like that. I wanted to explain if you're curious about it. But you're gonna say
Okay.
you had a student. I'd rather you finish your story first, because I got this information. I got this information. It's ready.
Okay. um. Well, so I worked part of this. Part of my day was would work in a school in the morning, and then in the afternoon I would go do like in-home therapy.
Mm.
But at school, I had a couple of students who they were autistic and they just channeled their energy and their focus into different things. So there was this student who was in first grade. He's autistic and he loved the solar system. He knew so much about the solar system. There's more than I could ever remember, to the point that he could name every planet, the distance away from the sun, the distance away from us. He could name all the moons for each planet, including Pluto,
You know,
who I didn't.
I
Huh?
I have a theory of why people that have autism tend to have like amazing like ways of just like memorizing all this information. And you want to know what my theory is?
What?
There is a part of the brain that we tend to let get in our way of having the ability to access all this information. And I just have a theory that people that have autism don't have that restriction. And so they're able to tap into so much information and memorize so much stuff because they don't have that restriction.
As if,
And I guess I'm
as
using
if you have like a wall. It's like let's like
I
pretend
would
that there's a
say
wall.
I would say using even the word me using it as a restriction is a misnomer. It's that we're misusing a part of our brain in a sense. Like we're maladaptively using something because first finish what you're gonna say and I can go more into it because again this goes into the whole conversation of like the different kinds of memory and stuff like that and the way we process information. But I want to first. You were talking about the child who's memorizing all that stuff. It just made me think of that.
No, it's okay. Honestly, I don't remember why I was talking about it.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Uh,
It's okay. It was really interesting and like very neat to see. He also got into like learning about the body and stuff, and he was just so smart. you could ask him, like how for like any other child, you would be like, "Hey, where's your elbow?" You know, they'd point to their elbow or whatever.
Mm.
You could ask him, "Where's your frontal lobe?" And he would point to that. Like, he doesn't care where his elbow is. You could ask him, you know, like where the Big Dipper was, and he'd be like, "Oh, it's next to, you know, whatever."
Yeah.
It was really neat. And then there had another student who was really into maps. Like, as a reward, he'd be like, "Can I go onto Google Earth? You know, if I complete whatever it is that you're asking me to do, I want to use Google Earth afterwards." And he would like zoom in to different places, and he could go from Google Earth and like find exactly where we were. And if I needed directions on how to get anywhere, I would ask him. I'd be like, "Hey, I need to go to this city." And he was in he's in kindergarten. Sorry, he wasn't in first grade. He was in kindergarten. And I would ask him like, "What street do I need to take to in order to get to this?" And he would tell me. He'd be like, "Oh yeah, you want to go here and here and that." And his mom told me that because they went to Vegas over Thanksgiving or Christmas. I can't remember. But because he would ask me, "Where do you live?" And I had told him the city, and he was like, "Oh, what street is it on?" And I'm like thinking like, "Oh, this kid isn't gonna know. Like, I'll just tell him, whatever, you know."
Yeah.
And so I had told him, and I guess when they had left to start their drive over to Vegas, as they were passing through the city, he told his mom like, "Oh, Miss Celeste lives over there." I'm just like, what? I had no idea he'd be able to call me out like that, but it's really
It's okay.
interesting.
So I remember what exactly that I was gonna say, what you were talking about, like with my theory and everything, and there probably is some information on this about it, but from what I've read, they said that often people with autism have damage to their default mode network, and so
What's that?
the default mode network is a very, very special part of the brain that manages our identity. So I don't know if you're already seeing where I'm going with this. Do you think people with autism tend to care about what other people think about them?
Typically, no.
Right? The default mode network typically tends to ask that question. What does everybody think about me? What do I need to change in order to fit in better? It runs that question pretty much all the time. Like, what do I need to do to become this thing? When you're like a teenager and a kid growing up, often you're given the idea that you need to fit in, right? You need to belong to other people and stuff like that. The default mode network is pretty much has the task of, okay, they told us that we need to be polite, we need to be this, and that. How is that going? It takes in information like, oh, are we accomplishing that goal of fitting in? And this is also what leads to suicide and stuff like that, because usually if we're not accomplishing those like goals, those blueprints that we have in our brain starts asking if we're the issue. You get what I mean?
Yeah, no, but they don't think about that. They're not self-conscious.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying, like, they have more time to focus on what they want, what they like to learn about and things like that. They don't have time to think about all that stuff. And so that's why I say that, again, this is not a restriction, because the default mode network is very important. You can use it to become very successful because, again, this is your blueprint. This is, that's why I ask people, I talk about this a lot on my streams. I always ask people if they have role models. Do you have role models, Celeste? Do you have a role model that you look up to?
Yeah.
Okay, who would that be, if you don't mind me asking?
My mom.
Your mom? Okay. Do you tend to copy things that she does, or do you work towards things that she is doing and like you want to become that?
Oh my gosh, I am like, so my boyfriend and I are trying to get a place, and I started buying like little things here and there
Mm-hmm.
so that we could be prepared whenever we move. and I started buying almost the exact same things that my mom has in her kitchen so that I can.
That's funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
so the reason I asked that though is that that's pretty much what the default mode network does. It looks to things that you want to be, and it starts working towards. It starts giving you like feedback, like okay, you're going towards this. Okay, this is what you want to do. This is what you want to be. You know what I mean? It starts aiming towards that. That's why I always tell people like your brain doesn't know the same thing with your gut. You remember how I was saying with your gut, like your gut's just out for itself, right? It's
Yeah.
just doing its job. The same thing with the default mode network. It's just doing its job. So if it hears everyone telling you that you're stupid, that you're dumb, or even yourself telling yourself that, like, oh, I'm stupid, I'm dumb, I can't do this, whatever, it starts saying, okay, I guess that's what they want to be. I'm going to start running, sending them signals to let them know, like, hey, we want to work towards being stupid. We want to work towards being dumb. Because apparently that's what we want to
I'm
fit in
sorry.
as.
Sorry.
What happened?
I'm laughing. It just sounds funny to me
It
that
just
my
sounds
brain
silly, right?
would be like, be more stupid. God damn you.
Yeah. But you get what I'm saying, right? Like, your brain doesn't know
Yeah.
the difference. Your brain's just doing its job. Like, okay, like, that's how it evolved. It evolved to work towards a goal so that it can become the thing, like, back in the primitive times, it was like, we need to survive. We need food. We need to be a provider for our family. Like, we need to hunt. It's running those simulations, and then the default mode network goes, all right, that's what we need to be. All right, it's pretty much like the HR. It's like okay, giving feedback. Oh, my goal is to make sure this person becomes this thing, or maybe the manager. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's a manager either. It's just the
I don't think
person in
it's HR.
tasks. Yeah, HR I feel like is the best example because like it's just there to make sure people are becoming the things they want to be. It's like a counselor almost. So like, but again, it doesn't know the difference between what what a good role model or blueprint is and a bad,
It's it's your inner therapist, but it's a really bad one.
Well, no, it's just it's indifferent. Like it doesn't have a sense of morality because morality is a thing we created. It's a concept that we came up with. Because in nature there was no such thing as bad or good. It was just survival or death. So now that we have morality, like it doesn't, it's not, it wasn't created for that. So now you have to work with it, and that's why I say that people with autism, in a sense, have a little bit of advantage because they can ignore that and go straight for like, oh, I'm really into maps. I'm gonna just keep learning about maps because that's all I care about right now.
That's just fascinating to me. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so like that, which is awesome. Again, like more power to them. But we have, I wouldn't say it's a burden because it's just another part of the brain that we just need to be aware of and teach people how to be aware of it. That's why like when people joke around like, oh, I'm stupid, I'm dumb, and everything, I'm just like, in my head, I'm just like, I hope they don't keep saying that because your brain's always listening, and even though consciously you're like, oh, I know, I'm just joking, I'm just messing around. Subconsciously, your brain's gonna keep picking up on that and be like, maybe we are dumb. Maybe we need to be dumb. We keep hearing that
Oh.
we're dumb. Maybe we should just be dumb. Like why read a book? We're dumb. Like that's not towards our goal. That's not who we want to be. You know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah,
you
that's just
gotta be
sad.
careful. You have to be very careful, because that can really kill your confidence. Because then your brain starts thinking, well, we don't have to be confident. That's not who we are. That's not the person we want to be. So this goes towards like addiction and everything too. They always say like when you're trying to stop an addiction, like don't say that you're trying to be somebody who doesn't smoke anymore. You got to tell yourself that you're not a smoker, because at the end of the day, your brain picks up on that and says, "Oh yeah, we're not a smoker. Why would we pick up that cigarette? We're not a smoker." You know?
I don't know. Because when you say something like that when it comes to addiction, I feel like that's a little
Again, like it's not
it's a little
that's
trickier.
yeah, it's
Cause
not
like,
simple.
cause like, one of the things is like acceptance. Like if you're an alcoholic
Mm-hmm.
or you're a drug addict, you have to accept the fact that this is something that you have about you. Like
Yeah.
your body wants alcohol. Your brain is always telling you you're an alcoholic. Um, that's like one of the first steps I think is acceptance.
Mm-hmm. But that's consciously accepting it. Like at the end of the day, the subconscious is the part that has to really accept it, and that's why it's good to make sure that you're kind of building that routine, that habit that you're like, oh, no, that's not who I am, though. You know, like it's easy. It's easier for someone who's a vegetarian to reject a hamburger, right? Than for
Yeah.
somebody who's not. Because at the end of the day, it's about your identity. It's about who you are.
Yeah, but then that's really tricky. How do you get your subconscious to believe one thing and your consciousness to believe another.
Yeah, it's very tough. Like
That's why it's
I
so
still
hard.
struggle with it. I still struggle with it. But I find myself when I don't think too much about it, it ends up like for me, like the whole dieting and all that, it wasn't because I was like telling myself every day like, this is who you are, this is who you are, this is who you gotta be, you know, like I just kind of like stopped thinking about it and was just like again, it goes into habits. You just realize that that's just the thing you're gonna be doing every day, right? You just try to keep pushing yourself to do that thing. There's a part of the brain that's really good at that as well. It's the prefrontal cortex, and this thing actually doesn't fully develop until you're around 25. So, and I find it funny because
Ours barely finished developing.
yeah. So I find it funny because I hear a lot of people who like they don't start like changing their lives or anything around their mid-20s, and I find it funny because the prefrontal cortex allows you to start doing things that are not necessarily fun for you, but you know that are good for you. Like you may be adverse to it because it's not like the most funnest thing to do, but you know that it's gonna help you in the long run, and your prefrontal cortex helps you with accomplishing those kind of things. And I just find it funny that it doesn't fully develop till around like the mid-20s.
That makes sense now that I think about it, though.
Yeah, because like for me, like when I turned around 25, I felt like there was suddenly like a change. I was just like, the fuck am I doing with my life? Just like,
yeah, in the last couple of years, I've been a lot more aware of like where I'm at in life and where I didn't get.
yeah,
See
right.
What I mean, like as when you're younger, you don't really. You're like, oh, I can do that later. Like I can afford to do this now, and it'll be fine. But then they always say after a certain age.
Yeah.
Too, but after a certain age, you start to sit back and you think about it, and you're like, I should have made, better choices, and I'm going to make better choices now because I want to be in a different place.
Yeah.
And
to those out there who are still struggling with getting their life together, just know that it doesn't mean your prefrontal cortex is like damaged or something like that. Like, let me tell you now, it's just that working in tandem with your default mode network, you're still gonna struggle. If you don't have the if you don't have the identity of like wanting to change your life and stuff like that, you're not gonna work towards that. You're gonna still work towards identity. It's just that now with the prefrontal cortex, you have more tools to accomplish it. And to those of you who got their life together before they turned into the mid-20s, it just means you had a good environment. Let me just tell you that now. You had a good environment. Or you had, like even people who, like, grew up in, like, a poor neighborhood or something like that, maybe they, like, found themselves in a library and everything, and they had a good teacher or something like that. Like, it's just having that right environment to push you in that right direction. I know, what's up?
no, it's okay. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, Anton Chekhov, really popular playwright, his family abandoned him like in his early 20s, I believe, and he had to fend for himself, and he ended up just like going to the library every day and then like tutoring people, and he ended up like learning like a lot of psychology and stuff like that, and was just like, you know what, I don't hate my family, I understand why they did that, like they're humans, they're just fending for themselves. And he like ended up forgiving them, and like he became really like rich and everything, and ended up taking care of his family. And like it was around his mid-20s where he just like suddenly hit him, and he's just like, I just gotta survive. I just gotta get my life together. But it like him being put in that position, I say also seeing that his brothers went through a lot of like shitty stuff too. One of his brothers became like a drunk because of the way his family was, and another one like kind of like resented his dad and everything because his dad was abusive and used to beat him up, like beat them all and everything, and was drunk all the time.
That's sad.
And so like one of his brothers ended up becoming their dad, like being drunk all the time and stuff like that. And then the other one just like kind of took the anger and stuff like that. And Anton Chekhov kind of looked at all that and was just like, well, I don't want to be that. And so he had examples to go off of. And so that's what I'm saying, like it's a matter of your environment. Like luckily for Anton Chekhov, he had examples to work off of, and like to see like, okay, I don't want to be that. Along with the prefrontal cortex and the default mode network, which are very important. So it's just, I just want you to know that you're all capable of this. Everyone out there is capable of this. You just gotta keep working towards it. Even if the life's shitty right now, I believe in you. If you don't believe in yourself, just know that I believe in you. If that means anything to you.
Circling back around to autism, because you were talking about like wanting to know about how their brain works and stuff.
Uh-huh.
I haven't read this book, but I think I've always wanted to. I just haven't gotten around to ordering it yet.
Uh-huh.
But there's this book called The Reason Why I Jump, and it was actually written by a kid who is autistic, and he wrote it to, I think, initially try to explain to his parents like what his brain is thinking,
Oh, that's awesome.
you know, and how it's working and stuff. I think he was like between the ages of 11 and 13, something like that, whenever he wrote this book. It's a pretty small book.
Mm-hmm.
But it might be something you'd be interested in getting his perspective. Yeah.
The reason why, can you text that to me when you get a chance?
Yeah, of course.
Check that out. Add it to my reading list. Oh, wait. No, don't do it. Don't do it. No. Your flashlight's not strong enough, you fool. Oh yeah, I did want to go over more than just the default mode network and the, what was the other one I mentioned? The prefrontal cortex. You also have the hippocampus. So I'm trying to learn as much as I can about the brain, because like I just love understanding all the different parts, because again, remember I was talking about meta skills? Where I was saying that, like, you know, one thing you learn can like apply to so many other things.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like with learning about the brain, there's a lot of meta skills behind it, because eventually you can connect those things, like human behavior. Like, why do I do this? Oh, because this part of the brain is, you know, acting up, or, you know, is doing this. So with the hippocampus, it's actually what controls your long-term memory. Damn it, I'm crazy. This is actually what shuts down a lot of the times when people get drunk.
The long-term memory?
Yeah. Your so
hippocampus.
Yeah, the hippocampus. So like when people say they blacked out, oh, I didn't remember any of the stuff I did or whatever, it's because the hippocampus shut down. You still have, and during those moments you still have short-term memory. So you're still aware of what you're doing, you just don't remember any of it. And that's scary. It really is scary when you think about it. Like, your body's still conscious of what it's doing, but it's not gonna put any of it into your memory. It's kind of
I
like
blacked out one time.
Oh really?
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
And the thing is, not everyone's gonna be the same. For some reason, I've you know, I don't drink anymore. Ever since like learning about like alcohol and how it works on the body, I'm just like, I'm not gonna do that anymore. But it's very interesting that like everyone has like different effects on that, right? Because I've drinking to the point where I was like, because it also affects the cerebellum, which controls a lot of your motor pretty much what controls all your motor functions is near the spine. So it has all like the nerves going towards that part of the body. So that's why you start like having like trouble standing and stuff like that, because it starts like messing with that part of the brain as well.
The cerebellum, that's what you said?
Yeah, the cerebellum, which means little brain.
Oh.
Because it's a little tiny it's a little tiny piece that's on the bottom part of the brain. I don't know if you've ever seen like the picture of the brain. It's like that little thing connected to the spine.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's the cerebellum. Hippocampus is like right above it. That's why they both get affected in that same area. So yeah, the cerebellum gets affected, the hippocampus gets affected, and what I was trying to say is that I find it funny that people have different effects of it, because I've drinking to the point where I like threw up and everything, couldn't move and all that stuff, but I never blacked out. Like my hippocampus never shut down for some reason. I was always aware of what I was doing, so like I never did anything. I tried to not do anything stupid. But what also happens is that your I forget what part of the brain also gets affected by this, but you know how people think that like they become more, you know, confident and stuff like that, or like oh, we got her. Like what do you think happens when people get drunk and stuff like that? Like what do you think changes about people?
Oh, I think it's different for everyone.
Oh
like,
yeah, of course.
I know like a lot of people, they'll be able to like open up about their traumas, you know, and stuff, or they'll become more outspoken and they'll vocalize, things that they don't like around them at the time.
Uh-huh.
Or for me, I have been told that I get like very funny, very happy, and like very loving, where I just want to encourage everyone to do good.
So what do you
But I
think
don't.
that is though? Like if you were to like simplify it into like one thing that's going on, like
I guess like the common factor with all those things is it just I wouldn't not that it makes people relax, but it makes people less aware of the things that are holding them back in their day-to-day lives, to where they can express like all these other things.
that's a good answer.
You know,
That's a really good answer.
oh, thank you.
So what they like kind of figure out is that what it kind of does is create this like myopic lens where, and do you know what myopia is when it comes to like oh they got it. When it comes to like reading and stuff like that?
No.
It's pretty much like you're short-sighted, you're nearsighted, you only see right in front of you. So if you ever hear that word myopia, it just means you're nearsighted. You can only see closer to you, you can't see far away. And so what happens when you're drunk is that you're kind of like internalized. You're not looking like at your environment anymore, like in a sense. Like you're just kind of, so if you're feeling sad, you're gonna get sadder. If you're feeling happy, like it kind of like hones into your like subconscious like area. You're not aware of your other people's surroundings and stuff like that. Also, people tend to say things that, they're like angry at somebody or something like that, and they just have the confidence to say it because they're not even thinking about the other person, like what they're feeling and stuff like that. They're just getting it out. So I don't know which part of the brain this is, but pretty much it's shutting your awareness of your environment down. So I find
So you're
that,
not like, no, never mind. I want to say you're not like concerned about anybody else's feelings, because I feel like in my case, I'm very aware of other people's feelings, and that's why I become like so encouraging. Like I think that time that I blacked out, I do remember encouraging the bartender to follow his dreams and go back to school or something like that. And
yeah, I
I
know,
don't know.
I know it sounds confusing, but it's not that you don't care, but it is that you don't care. It's it's how there's you're pretty much shutting down a certain filter, right? Like
Oh,
okay.
I feel like you lose your humility.
Yeah, in a
Like,
sense.
right? Okay.
That's why like a lot of girls end up having like sex with guys, and then they're just like, why did I do that and stuff like that, and it's just like, because there's that part of the brain that usually tells you not to do specific things, like that's not the kind of person I am and all that, whatever, and it usually shuts that down. And that's why a lot of times people that get drunk make really bad decisions, because it really affects
Your
that.
self-consciousness kind of
Yeah.
breaks down.
So like when you're telling that bartender like follow your dreams and everything and like that, you could be that kind of person normally too. But if you weren't that kind of person, like it could also just be that you weren't afraid to tell that person that thing, that you took in the information they gave you, and you were just like unfiltered, like go follow your dreams, do it, like and you can of course have that naturally, like with me, like I being on camera all the time, I'm like, it's easier for me to just kind of like say what I gotta say now. But when you like, that's why they call it liquid courage, right? When you have alcohol.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it just kind of shuts down your like, how you feel other people think about you and stuff like that. Like, say you want to say a shitty joke, but you're like afraid of what other people are gonna say. Like, you're just gonna be like, I'm gonna say that shitty joke, and everyone calls you a racist.
It's like in Harry Potter, where he tricks Ron into thinking that he gave him liquid luck, right? And then Ron suddenly has all this confidence because, okay, he's like, I can't go out there and I can go out there and play this Quidditch match and nothing bad's gonna happen because I have liquid luck.
Hmm.
You know, and he ends up doing really well and winning and everybody's praising him at the end and it turns out that he didn't actually have anything, but because he thought he took, that potion, um, he that whole barrier that he had up, falls down. It's like the same thing that happens with alcohol, I think.
Yeah.
You know?
And then,
Except in his case he was tricked into it.
yeah,
But that's different.
like that placebo effect kind of thing.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. I just recently finished a book called Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell. Amazing book, by the way. I recommend it to everybody. He kind of goes over current events as well, like specifically with how cops treat African Americans and stuff like that. You know, people of color, and how that's all due to not only our environment, but specific routines and things like that. It's like there's so much good information in that book about how like we tend to default to certain actions, and this goes back to the Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene, where we have this idea. One of the laws is the law of compulsive behavior. We tend to fall into the same routines and everything. They actually found a study that if you show somebody a picture, like a mug, of somebody of a different race than you are, like your specific race, especially like the family you grew up in, or your like specific culture that you grew up, your background, your amygdala, which is the part of the brain that actually triggers your stress response and your like, I would say your fear, but I don't want to go into that, but so your stress response triggers for a quick second because it is not the same color of your skin, like, and
It's different.
yeah, it's
Okay.
different, and so like everyone does that, like for me, like I'm Mexican, like a lot of the times, if I see like another Mexican, if I was to go through that study, like my amygdala would be like, oh, that's not a Mexican. But then of course I'd be like, well, I respect all humans, so I'm not gonna, it's gonna shut down that fear response immediately and be like, no, we're fine, like humans, we're humans. But like it's just very interesting that our brain jumps straight to that, but then it shuts it down. But for like people who are racist, like it's like almost that doesn't turn off, like they're accustomed to just think that certain race is like bad news and things like that. You know what I mean? Or specific people.
Yeah.
If you see somebody in a dark alley, your amygdala just goes whoop, alarms, 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 and it starts affecting all the decisions you make and stuff like that. And in that book, he just talks about how, a lot of these people who are in power, like cops, judges, things like that, like they like to think that they have a hold of their own mind and everything, but we have these parts of the brain that could easily affect our decisions, things like that. And we cops and judges and all that need to be aware of that. They need to be self-aware that they're not perfect, and that they need to be aware, like, okay, what is going on right now? Why do I feel stressful being with this other person? Instead of just being like, oh, I'm a racist, oh my god, like, again, it goes back to the default mode network. Like, if everyone's telling you you're a racist and you're just like, no, I'm not, like, you're just gonna get angry, and then you're gonna end up doing something racist because you're just trying to like fight so hard not being a racist and everything. You know what I mean? Like, and so instead of turning that and being like, well, what is my brain doing right now that's causing me to feel this, certain emotion and all that? And I read another book called How Emotions Are Made, by Dr. Lisa Feldman, and she goes over how the idea that we have to understand the emotions aren't a thing that we naturally have. Emotions are reactions attached to memories. So, for example, there could be somebody out there who gets angry when anybody touches, like, say, like somebody scratches their nose in front of them, and they get upset. They're just like, "Don't do that." It's like, "What? I'm just scratching my nose." "Don't scratch your nose in front of me." And it's like, "Well, why?" And they could not know why. They're just like, "I don't know. I just don't like when people scratch their noses in front of me," right? But there could be a memory attached to that emotion, like maybe a long time ago, somebody kept scratching his nose or something like that, or somebody did something bad while scratching their nose, and now he attaches that memory to, anytime somebody's scratching their nose, I get angry. You know what I mean? And it's being aware of that kind of stuff. Like for me, I started doing that a lot. Is start analyzing, like, why do I get angry when somebody does this specific thing? Or why do I feel sad when somebody does this specific thing? Like, because it's not that simple. It's not just because, oh, it's just a bad thing. It's something I don't want them to do. It's like, no, there has to be a certain memory. When I grew up, something was attached to that memory that I feel that way now whenever that happens.
Yeah, it's like when you're afraid of certain animals, there has to be something that like causes you to be afraid of them.
Yeah, because at the
Like
end of the day... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, at the end of the day, when you see a bear, the bear is not the one creating fear. You are. You are creating the fear. The bear is just being a bear. At the end of the day, the bear's just being a bear.
He's just doing his job.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you have a concept of, oh, bears like bear. Maybe you heard a story. Bears can eat people. You know, bears can maul people to death. You've heard that on the news or something like that. You read a story. You created the concept of fear attached to the memory of a bear, and so now when you see a bear, your brain goes, oh, we remember that story. But of course, you're not gonna think of that. You know, you're just gonna be like, bear means death.
Like my sister, she's afraid of horses, and I don't know why. I'm like, we didn't really grow up around horses, but we watched. I don't remember ever watching like anything bad about them, but she does not like horses, and I don't understand where that fear comes from. For me, I hate rats. I don't know. Like when Ratatouille came out, it took me a lot to get through the first time of watching it. Yeah, like the one when it's just Remy, it doesn't really bother me, but when I see them all like swarming in, oh my gosh, like drives me nuts. What animals are you afraid of?
Me? I don't have like a distinct fear for anything, like, or like I cannot handle it at all. It's more of the situation, I guess. Like, you know, a wild animal in the woods and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't think I have a fear of anything. Like even bugs and stuff like that, I don't give a shit really. Of course, yeah, I don't want them on me. You know. So yeah, again, at the end of the, you get what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't like.
Like there's triggers, there's things that happen and then they cause all of these other fears.
Yeah.
Or just like there's things that happen and they cause you to be like really accepting.
Yeah.
Of different things.
But sorry, I'm murdering somebody. I really like that book.
That's your long-term memory.
I really like that book because it really like explained to me that like you can break down emotions, you can break down memories, and really like create new ones. You know, now like I know that whenever I feel a certain emotion and I don't want to feel that way anymore, you know, I go to the prefrontal cortex, I go like, hey, and then I tell the default mode network, hey, you know, I'm not actually doing this, but I'm trying to explain that you can use all these parts of the brain and know that that's what you're using. I can be like, hey, I don't want to be angry anymore about this certain thing. Like, why are we doing this? Like, we know this is not helpful at all. How can we go about this? How can we fix this? And it's like, okay, why do... And so you start going through the steps, you know. Okay, why do we feel this way? What memory is associated with this feeling? Why do we keep doing this? Can we apply a new memory to that? Can we apply a new thing to that? You know what I mean? It just requires a lot of work, you know. At the end of the day, it's just the work, getting the work done. And I just like that book so much because of that, because it just opened my eyes that like emotions aren't these things that are set in stone, you know. It goes to that growth mindset again, you know, like you have the ability to change yourself. There's a lot of studies. I mean, I can go on and on about it. We're actually running out of time here. I was just gonna finish this match and we're done. But is there anything you want to talk about, you know, before we end this stream?
No, I'm okay. It was nice. I liked it. It was fun.
That's good.
We got into some really good conversations. You're so smart, Michael.
No, okay. See, that's actually something I want to talk about too. I appreciate that.
You want to talk about how smart you are?
No. Okay. Yes, narcissism. That's why. No. You know, I appreciate that because it is, you know, it is a compliment. I really do appreciate that. But I feel that we could be very harmful with using that word, right? Of course, I'm an adult. I know that, you know, you're just trying to compliment me, so, you know, that's fine. But I think when it comes to kids, when we tell them they're smart, we're kind of doing them a disservice. Because we're initially saying to them that that's their identity, that's who they are. Like, I don't consider being smart a quality or an attribute of who I am, right? Like an identity of who I am. I'm not a smart person. That's not who I am. I'm just a person who decided that I wanted to read books and stuff like that. I like reading. I'm a reader. I'm a writer. You know, all those things attribute to like having a better vocabulary and stuff like that. You know, I did the work for it. You know, you can call me you can call me a hard worker. You know, like I would appreciate that.
I could say you're very knowledgeable.
Yeah, like that. That's good too. Because you know, it says that I did the work. But I feel like smart is kind of like a word you use to kind of just be like shortcut word. I always call them shortcut words, like saying lazy or stupid or things like that. It's like you're jumping straight to a conclusion without like, you know, acknowledging any of the steps that it took to get to that. You know what I mean? And I'm sorry if I'm like, because so I feel like when I tell people this kind of thing.
I'm just gonna hang up now.
Oh. Jesus Christ, I did so bad in this game right here. This character requires a lot more concentration. I realize now. Y'all get out of here! I don't want to see you guys anymore. These plate people I'm going against.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about your Christopher Walken impression.
I tried to aim down the sides and I couldn't shoot any of them. My gun is not fast enough. Get your ass! Oh, I can't aim. Can't do it. What was I gonna say though? Yeah, so that's why like when I hear parents are just like, my son is smart, I'm just like, ooh. Wait till they realize when they get older and like they can't, because this happens. I've met so many kids or like even adults, they grow up and they're just like, I was a smart kid in school and I can't accomplish anything anymore, because that's the default mode network going into action, right? They were told they were smart all their life and now their environment is not reflecting that anymore. They're struggling. They can't, you know, accomplish things. You know, they're struggling to be an adult. I'm not smart anymore. What is going on? And then their brain goes, okay, then you're not smart. I guess you're stupid. It comes up with that solution. Okay, I guess we're stupid now. You know what I mean? And then, because if nobody else is there to contradict that, their brain's going to go into that solution mode and be like, oh, I guess I'm just dumb. And then they get depressed. And then they get into all these like different, you know, mental health issues and stuff like that. And it becomes just this like, and I know I don't mean to sound like a slippery slope, because it does sound like a slippery slope, but I've seen it happen so many times, because I had that happen to me as well. Like my parents always saying, oh, you're smart, and then when I failed at something, I'm just like, ah, I guess I'm not smart, I guess I'm dumb. You know what I mean? But if they told me, hey, you're a hard worker, and then if I failed at something, I could be like, well, I know I can do the work at least. You know, like, I know I messed up, but I can do the work. You know what I mean? Because that's what I tell myself now. Like, I'm just like, okay, I didn't do good at this thing, but I know I can just put in more work and learn about it, because I'm not afraid to learn anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, oh, I can just go find a book on this and learn more about it and get better at it.
I get it. It creates a different sense of expectations.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, I just wanted to clarify that, because I don't want to be like, don't say that to people, you know? No, I'm not saying you can't use the word. I'm just saying just be careful how, like, especially with kids, because their little default mode networks don't know any better.
Yeah. Take care of your default mode.
Yeah. God, there's so many crazy things about the brain. Like, you have the insula, you have the frontal cortex, you have the limbic system. There's just so many different things that like affect who we are, and they're all working together to make us who we are, right? At the end of the day, I'm not just Michael.
Huh?
You're not just Celeste.
Oh, hola Maria. Sorry.
We're all these things in our body. You know, it's all good. I just wanted to say something really profound before we closed up the thing. We are not who we are, who we think we are. We are the universe.
That's right. We are not smart.
We are hard workers, damn it. You guys all have the ability to become whatever you want to be. You just gotta put in the work. Anyways, that is all for today, y'all. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Me killing a bunch of people while talking about how great life is. No, I'm just kidding. And I also appreciate the conversation we had about the things that were going on with you, Celeste, because I feel like I said, it's very important to understand that information. I want to learn more about it. If you find any books on like learning about the like women's health and everything that are really good, like really go in depth, please let me know. Like, send it to me. I would love to read more about that.
Okay, yeah. I know there's like a bunch recommended in that support group that I'm in. I just
Mhm.
haven't read any. I wanna I need to find one that's written by like an actual. I want to find something that's written by an actual doctor, not like
Mhm.
these women creating articles, because I feel like with things like this, there's just every case is just so different. I feel
Yeah.
like you can't narrow it down to one person's experience.
It's-
And
it-
like I think that kind of does like a disservice to the development and the research that can be put into all of this
mhm.
when you just get like one person's experience. And I mean, not that their perspective is like a bad thing to learn.
Mhm. No,
I
no.
just I just feel like this early on, there's you can't just put all of your hopes into one person's experience. You're only going to learn so much from that when there's like there's like a much broader, you know, I don't know what I'm talking about.
No, no,
Never
no.
mind.
You totally what you're saying is totally makes sense. Like anecdotal evidence is not 100% gonna solve everything. It's still good information. Like it's like the boy who cried wolf, right? Like him telling them the wolf is attacking the sheep and everything. Um, would it be good if he was telling the truth? It'd be good anecdotal information, like qualitative information. But the fact that he was lying didn't help, and that's why it's not always 100% reliable. Like eyewitness truth, right? It's not 100% reliable. That's why it's always good to have qualitative information, like anecdotal information and stuff like that, and quantitative, right? Multiple studies, science and mathematics that bring forth information that balances out the emotion and the qualitative information, the anecdotal stories that you have. It's always having that balance, quantitative and qualitative information. Both are very important. So I totally get what you're trying to say. So you're saying like looking for books that are more practical, right? Rather than like
Yeah.
theoretical and just going over stories and experiences. I totally get that. Yeah, that's what I would love too. More practical book. I guess in my sense, it's not very practical because I'm not a woman, so I can't really do anything about it. But I guess the practical part about it would just be like being aware of it and um,
Yeah, and it's because like
empathizing more.
there's a lot of there's not that many books out there, and but a good portion of the ones that are out there
Hmm.
are because they're like autobiography kind of things.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, you can learn from them, but
Yeah.
I don't know. You don't want to put all of your eggs in that basket. Like,
Hmm. The only book so far I've read on like women's studies in a sense, is like the history of women being taken care of in the medical field, and how they're just so mistreated. Like it's awful. Like
oh
men
yeah.
just being the typical doofuses sometimes.
Yeah, that night or that day that I had gone to the hospital and they sent me home and I had to go back.
Hmm.
It was this guy who was like he insisted, I think that he probably just thought I was trying to get drugs
Wow.
because I was in so much pain, and was just like totally dismissive to everything else. Like he should have had an OB go in and examine me and he didn't. He like had the ultrasound done, told me I was fine and just sent me home. I
Wow.
didn't even actually speak to a real doctor. It was just this nurse, who dismissed everything that I was telling him. And I feel like, I don't know. There's
No. Yeah.
people jump to too many conclusions.
Yeah, and honestly, that's what that one book I mentioned earlier, "Talking to Strangers" by Malcolm Gladwell, like kind of explains that you have these two different types of people, right? Because like most humans default to truth, right? We relatively trust people generally, and then we have the other side of us that's like super skeptical, and like we will come across as people that are very skeptical and end up causing more problems than actually helping, um, and it's unfortunate, and it's really unfortunate when you have men who assume things about women when they need their help and stuff like that. Um, it happens so much, and it's much more complicated than just being like, well, you guys just need to be nicer and stuff like. It's just again, it goes back to the whole. Remember what we were saying with there's a difference between being trained and being educated. And most of these doctors and, you know, a lot of people in the medical field are just trained. They're not educated, and it's unfortunate. You know, a long time ago when I was, and I'm sorry guys, I know we're supposed to end the episode, but I did want to just say this really quick. A long time ago when I was going through a lot of mental health issues, and I actually put myself into a, what do they call it, like a behavioral place, because I was feeling very suicidal and everything, and this is during when I was in AI.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I didn't tell anybody because like I was feeling very depressed, and I was going home one day, and I just was like, I want to crash my car right now. Like those were the thoughts I was having, and I was just like, this is awful. Like I don't want to kill myself, but there's a part of me that just keeps wanting to say like, just do it, just do it, just do it, you know. And so like I was passing by a hospital, and I was like, all right, park here, turn yourself in, because I just do not trust you right now. Like I was telling myself that, like, I do not trust you right now. And I ended up going into there, and some of the doctors I dealt with in there were like that. Like you can tell that they just weren't taking me seriously, and they were just prescribing me stuff, and I felt like crap. I felt like it wasn't helping, and I couldn't communicate that to them though, because, you know, there's also this sense of authority, right? You're like, oh well, they know better than I do, so I'm not going to challenge their authority. And honestly, I tell everyone, you need to challenge that authority. Look, doctors are there to help you, but you need to speak up if, you know, if something doesn't feel right. And if they don't want to help you, go find another doctor. And I know it's not always easy in the case, because, you know, insurance and all the way that works and stuff like that, freaking pain in the ass. But if you have the ability, please, and then speak to family too about it as well and everything. Don't let authority, you know, that whole authority thing, you know, get in the way. It's the whole fallacy behind that. But yeah, I totally get that. Like of course not from your perspective, but just the idea that just there's some people in the medical industry that are just the medical field that, again, they're simply trained, they're not educated, and it sucks.
Yeah, it does suck.
Yeah.
And that's today's episode of Science and Gaming.
Hey. All right, y'all. Well, you guys take care. Thank you so much, Celeste. I really do appreciate being here. It's always awesome, you know, talking to people about life and stuff. You know, that I realize that's what I like to do.
Thanks for having me, Michael. It was fun. I liked
definitely.
it.
If you want to be on again, let me know. I'll definitely love to have you on here again. Just let me know
Okay,
next time.
that'd be cool.
All right, y'all. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I believe Kiki's gonna be joining us tomorrow, so Salty Kit Kat Bar. I will see you tomorrow, and the rest of y'all, if you're gonna be there. And all right, goodbye.
Bye.